The UK requests the return to the EU's freedom of movement for pets. We're going to read into this more from The Independent, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from The Independent with the headline that the UK requests to return to the EU's freedom of movement for pets. The EU's pet passport is a document that is valid for life as long as rabies vaccinations are up to date. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. So as you can gather, the date on the article obviously is a couple of days old, but just for anyone who's just a bit of context as well, I am currently on holiday, in case you're wondering. If there's been an update to this story, I just want to add that context in there because I think that's just important for this particular article. Now, whether or not the UK will get this freedom of movement for pets or not, I don't know. And obviously, the priority obviously should be us. I do believe that we should return to freedom of movement at some point. However, I know it's a very sensitive and touchy subject because people think it's going to open the floodgates when they don't realise that we're actually an island surrounded by water. But we'll park we'll park their lack of geography aside on that issue. But pets are really important in terms. The reason this is important, obviously, in terms of people being able to travel with their dogs or with their loved ones to go across from one side to another, not being forced to leave it somewhere where they don't want to leave it or want to be close to it, and I would say as long as all documentation is there, I don't have an issue with this. I don't see freedom of movement for pets as something that is going to harm people or it's going to cause damage. Like, as long as like it says, rabies vaccinations and any other medical things that they're up to date with, what's the issue? What's the issue on this? Well, the issue is obviously that the EU will want something in return. You know, that's how it works. It's like, we want this, well, the EU wants that, and it's about trying to get something back from them. And this is one of many, many things around the Brexit that needs to be continually worked on. I'm in favour of a return to the EU's freedom of movement for humans, and I'm also in favour of the EU's freedom of movement for pets. So the government is seeking to rejoin the EU's pet passport scheme as part of its Brexit reset talks. The Independent understands hundreds of thousands of British travellers took their pets on holiday to the EU every year before the UK left the pet passport scheme at the end of the Brexit transition period in January 2021. So now British travellers must microchip their pets, vaccinate them against rabies, and obtain an animal health certificate which can cost up to £200. Let me just put something on the record here. Every single pet should be microchipped, and if they're not microchipped, you need to get your little pet microchipped. I can't stress this enough, how important it is. Like, that one needs to be done. Vaccinating them against rabies, I mean, that's pretty understandable. And a health certificate, which can cost up to £200. Like, yes, I know this all costs money, but if you generally love your pets, this is the lengths that you will go to with them. I mean, we can't have a national pet insurance like a national health pet insurance like we do with our NHS. If I'm honest, the UK's Brexit reset negotiators have pushed for the Britain's British cats and dogs to regain freedom of movement with the blog, as first reported by the Telegraph. In order to retain the agreement and on sanitary and sanitary SPS regulations and re-enter the pet passport scheme, the government is expected to give in to EU demands for long-term agreements on fish. A government source told the Telegraph that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. Britain has disrupted closely linked supply chains in the food and farming sector that once relied on shared EU rules, according to the Centre of Inclusive Trade Policy. Yeah, that's a fact. I don't even need them to tell me that. Before leaving the European Union, the UK benefited from strong regulatory alignment that made trade much easier, and now the UK is treated as a third country, creating new rules and barriers for British businesses trading with the EU. The think tank said the EU has brought in tougher rules in areas like pesticides and hazardous substances, rules that the UK have not followed. However, it is noted that the UK has introduced higher animal welfare standards than the EU. The government has previously said it is seeking to negotiate an SPS agreement to prevent unnecessary border checks and help tackle the cost of food. The EU Pet Passport is a simple one-time document that is valid for life as long as rabies vaccinations are up to date. And according to existing regulations, owners who want to be able to travel to the EU must get an animal health certificate from a veterinarian no more than 10 days before departure. A dog is only eligible for that if it receives tapeworm treatment for 1 to 5 days before departure. In addition to being required to have a rabies vaccination, dogs, cats, and ferrets must wait at least 3 weeks following the initial dose before travelling on vacation with their owners. It comes as the PM, Sir Keir Starmer, will host the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, on Monday, and it's expected that a reset deal will be announced. This would have already happened by the time you see this video. However, some independents understand that negotiations have encountered some last-minute problems, with the EU member state angry that draft communities presented to them by the Commission does not include big enough concessions from the UK on fishing and student fees. Again, these two paragraphs here will be a bit more updated by the time you guys see this video. EU states also appear to be pressing for Britain to accept authority of the European Court of Justice, according to the Financial Times. A deal with the EU could also include alignment to EU rules and regulations to ease trade barriers and a youth mobility scheme for 18 to 40-year-olds based on the ones that UK has with countries like Australia. Now, that's another subject for another day, I will, on that one. But that is something I will cover the following week with regards to what the outcomes on them. But in terms of pets themselves, I don't think anyone has an issue with us having more freedom of movement for our pets as long as the necessary vaccinations and whatnots are up to date. I'm in favour of it. I'm in favour of freedom of movement for humans, and I'm in favour of freedom of movement for pets. But obviously, the freedom of movement for humans is a bit more. People are a bit more Nancy about it, of course. But for people who will go everywhere with their pets, with their pets, it's obviously very frustrating for them, because some people might not think of pets as think of them as just simple animals, while some people think of them as their lifelong buddies, their brothers and sisters, a part of their family as well. So it is something that one of many issues that need to be addressed with Brexit. But what do you guys honestly think? What do you think about having a freedom of movement for our pets? Are you in favour of it? Are you against it? If you're against it, why? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video interesting or informative, hit that like button, share it across social media, subscribe if you haven't to already. Check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content. And if you want to financially support me and the work that I do here on this channel, you can click the join button down below. You can click that join button to become a YouTube member for as little as 99p. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.